Today's story is about Lamo, who died after being attacked by her husband during a live broadcast on TikTok. On September 14, 2020, a TikToker named Lamo was broadcasting live from her father's house in Gawa, a region in the Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture, a small and peaceful town with around 2,000 residents. At the time, she was using the Chinese version of TikTok and over 400 people were watching her live stream. On TikTok, Lamo had become famous for posting videos. The videos showed activities such as herb picking, cooking, and dancing to songs while wearing traditional Tibetan clothing. Occasionally, her two sons and her father would make appearance in her videos. She had about 200,000 followers on TikTok at the time. People always cheered and encouraged her, a lively and hardworking rural woman. On that day, she was doing a live broadcast from the kitchen, singing Tibetan traditional songs and cooking, just like she usually did. Over 400 people were watching her video. Shortly after, while she was doing her live broadcast, a man suddenly entered the kitchen where she was broadcasting. Upon seeing the man, she screamed in terror. In an instant, chaos erupted at the scene and shortly thereafter, the camera recording Lamo's live broadcast went dark. Lamo's father, who was sleeping in the bedroom, heard his daughters scream and rushed out of the room. Her father immediately ran to the kitchen where he had heard his daughters scream, only to find her lying there with severe burns. Her father took her to the hospital, and on the way there, he contacted her younger sister and told her to come as soon as possible. A few hours later, Lamo's younger sister arrived at the hospital with her father to check on her sister's condition. The doctor informed them that her condition was very critical and that they would do their best to save her. However, with burns covering over 90% of her body, it seemed unlikely that Lamo would recover. Due to the need for more specialized treatment, Lamo was transferred to a large hospital. At the time, her fans had no idea that she had suffered burns and was hospitalized. The only person who knew Lamo's TikTok ID and password was her younger sister, who logged into her account and explained her situation to her fans, asking for their help in her recovery. Surprisingly, $150,000 was raised in just 24 hours. Lamo received treatment in the hospital for 16 days with the support of her family and fans, but unfortunately, she passed away in the intensive care unit on September 30, 2020. When the incident occurred on September 14, 2020, the Chinese police immediately arrested a suspect near the scene. The suspect was Lamo's ex-husband, Tang Lu. He suddenly appeared during her live broadcast and poured gasoline on her before setting her on fire. The police took Tang Lu to the station for investigation. When it was revealed that the police could have prevented the incident, people were outraged. Lamo was born into a poor family in Tibet and lived a difficult life, digging herbs on the high plateau. Despite the harsh environment, she had a happy childhood relying on her younger sister and father. When Lamo turned 18, she met a man named Tang Lu who lived nearby. Tang Lu actively pursued the beautiful country girl Lamo and they got married in 2009. After the wedding, Ramona moved to Tang Lu's village to start a new life and gave birth to two sons. However, their marriage gradually deteriorated over time. Lamo's younger sister often visited her and her nephews, and one day she noticed bruises on Lamo's face and body. When she asked what had happened, Lamo insisted that nothing was wrong. For years, Lamo's sister saw her with scars and bruises, and her sister eventually took Lamo back to their father's house where Lamo tearfully revealed that she had been beaten by her husband and could no longer endure it. In the end, with the help of her father in March 2020, she divorced her violent husband, Tang Lu. However, she felt guilty about leaving her children behind and returning alone to her hometown. She struggled every day thinking about her children. A few months later, her ex-husband came to her house and proposed to reunite with her. He shouted and threatened her that he would kill all the children if she refused his proposal. She was shocked and reported to the police that her ex-husband was trying to kill their children. However, the police ignored her request. In the end, she gave in to his threats and reunited with him for the safety of her children. After they remarried, Tang Lu once again became violent towards her. She could not tolerate it and reported him to the police and requested protection for herself and her children. However, the police refused to intervene in personal family matters and ignored her report. As time passed, her husband's violence became more severe, and every day he terrorized her. Lamo asked for help from the local branch of the Chinese Women's Federation, a government agency responsible for women's rights. However, the staff told her that there were many women who were even worse off than her and advised her to solve the problem herself. Helpless, she filed for a second divorce and went into hiding at her relative's house until the court's decision came out. In June 2020, when Lamo disappeared, Tang Lu, who was angry, went to her father's house to look for her. Her sister was at home, but she refused to tell him where she was. In his anger, Tang Lu gouged out her left eye, causing her to collapse and lose consciousness. Lamo's younger sister was hospitalized for more than 2 weeks with a fractured bone. Lamo's sister reported the incident to the police, but they only conducted a simple investigation and released him without any punishment. On June 28, 2020, finally the divorce was approved, and Tang Lu was granted custody of their 2 sons. Lamo spent her time in the mountains, picking herbs. On the night of September 14, 2020, Lamo returned to her father's house and was doing a live broadcast in the kitchen. Suddenly, Tang Lu appeared with a gasoline can and attacked her, causing her to pass away. Tang Lu was immediately arrested by the police after the incident and was investigated for murder. Lamo's death sparked outrage among Chinese netizens. Just 1 day after her death, China's top leader, Xi Jinping, spoke at a women's conference and mentioned her case, stating that protecting women's rights should be a national commitment. Upon hearing this speech, Chinese netizens used hashtags on social media to demand strong punishment for domestic violence from the government. The hashtags, which included Lamo's name, quickly spread and received over 420 million views. However, the anger of Chinese netizens then turned to criticism of the police, who failed to prevent the incident. As a result, one of China's most popular social media, Weibo, immediately blocked the hashtags to prevent the spread of anger. On October 14, 2021, Tang Lu was sentenced to death by the court. The court stated that his crime was too cruel and had a negative social impact, justifying the severe punishment. Although China designated domestic violence as a crime in 2016, there are still women like Lamo in rural areas who suffer from domestic violence. If the police had helped her at the time, she would have lived happily with her children.